councils aren't allowed to use B&B type accommodation for temporary accommodation for families with children or families with pregnant women in them for more than 6 weeks. It basically says that if you look at the guidance, it's 16.30 of the Homelessness Code of Guidance. It basically says councils shouldn't use it at all, but if they absolutely have to, they cannot use B&B type accommodation for families with children or families with pregnant women for more than 6 weeks. But it's so common that people just kind of shrug and say, well, you know, that's just the way it is. However, there is compensation available for you for every week you stay past that 6-week period, that 6-week limit. So it's worth checking out. If you go to the local government ombudsman's guidance on remedies, if you just search for that term, there's actually a section which is specifically looking at this kind of this issue of hotel accommodation and long-term use, and it basically says that people should be able to get between £100 and £200 per week additional over that limit that they're in B&B type accommodation. Now, in one sense, that's what the law says. Councils don't follow the law a lot of the time, which is a problem. But what it does mean, if you dare to actually stick up for yourself and actually go after them for it, you're going to be able to get quite sizable amounts of compensation. And the way you do that is you start by making a subject access request, which is essentially your legal right to access all of the council's records that they have about you. So if you go on the council's website and search for subject access request, or just put it in Google with the council's name, you'll then get the process. It might be sending an email, or it might be filling in an online form. You request the information that you need. That's how I would do it. Start off, so you've then got black and white evidence that you were in B&B type accommodation from X date to Y date. You then do a bit of maths on it, work out how many weeks that was, work out how many weeks past that 6-week limit you're at, and then just times that number by 200. And so you then send a first stage complaint to the chief exec of the council. You copy in every relevant politician, because politicians need to know about this stuff. They are the ones who fix it. If we don't tell them what's going on, then nothing will change. And then you basically start by saying, I've been in TA in B&B for more than 6 weeks. 16.30 of the Code of Guidance says this, and you just quote it, just Google it, you can find that out. So it just basically says what the rule is, and then you just make the point that you've been in, you know, whatever, 20 weeks, and then you just do 14 times 2, so you basically ask for £2,800 compensation. First stage complaints are rarely upheld, so they'll probably just come back and say, well, you know, we're busy, we haven't, it's not our fault, it's all your fault. But the second stage complaint, or the final stage complaint before it gets to the LGO, some councils have a 3-stage complaint process, that's when things start getting interesting. They might offer you less than you're asking for, which is stupid, because if they don't give you what you ask for, and that's the last stage of the complaint process, your next stage is then to go to the local government ombudsman. Again, if you just Google lgo.org.uk, there's a whole section about, you know, making a complaint, so it's kind of it's a pretty straightforward process to do it. And this is really black and white kind of failing, so it's not like much investigation needs to get done. Which point LGO will investigate the situation, and then they'll recommend that compensation payment amount. And the downside of this is obviously that it can take many weeks, it can take many months to actually get that payment, but hopefully by raising it robustly, you're more likely to actually get moved to more suitable accommodation sooner, because LGO, when they've made investigations, when the person's still in that type of accommodation, they'll basically make the point, you know, pay Mr. X £3,000 for all the weeks they've been in TA in B&B, and then additional whatever £200 for every week they're now in from that point on. And that can really focus councils' minds to actually do their job lawfully. And just to make the point again, there is not enough suitable temporary accommodation, because the government, central government and councils have not made sure there's enough suitable temporary accommodation. So it's not an act of God, it's because the issue doesn't get raised with politicians, and because there's not enough essentially political interest in it. But by raising these complaints in this way, you're actually not only improving your situation, but you're actually improving the situation for other people who come after you.